So from the definition of this particular topic, the topic is overview of forensic accounting, topic number 10. So it says that a forensic audit is an in-depth examination or evaluation of a firm's or individual financial information for use as evidence in court. That is the key word. We are trying to do investigation or examination deeply, that is in-depth. And the main aim of this is so that we can get evidence that can be used for court proceeding. That is the key word. Normal audit, we also do examination and investigation, but not for court proceedings. In this one, the main aim is so that we can get evidence that can be used in court. You see, for example, what happened in NYS, when money got lost, probably some people were taken to court. Now, we probably needed a forensic auditor or accountant to be able to investigate for us how much money that was lost. I hope you understand that. So the people are coming to do that particular audit. It is not statutory audit that you do end of the year that we normally do. It's different from that. It's different from the statutory audit that we normally do by the end of the year. This one can be done anytime, and they can be requested by anytime so that it can be used as part of the court proceeding. So now, what are some of the aims of a forensic auditor? What are some of the aims of a forensic auditor? What are some of the aims of a forensic auditor? I'm not sure if you can see the board. So forensic auditor have said that they gather information with the aim of using them as part of the court proceeding. So the aim of these guys, when they are doing forensic audit, the main aim here is to be able to know, number one, you can write, the aim of doing this particular audit, forensic audit is number one, to be able to determine or identify the perpetrators, to be able to identify who are the perpetrators. Yani wakina nani waliiba pesa, who are involved in the fraud, they are called perpetrators. That is number one. Number two, the main aim is to determine or identify the amount of money that was lost or involved. I hope you're getting that. These guys, when they are doing the investigation, they want to take to court a report that is quite inclusive. A report that shows how much was lost during that fraud. That is number two. Number three, they need to be able to know how the process by which the money was lost, how the money was lost. What were some of the weaknesses that happened? What was the procedure that they followed to be able to steal the money? Are we together? So it is forensic investigator that is coming to do that particular job. The investigator is able to do that. So that is what we basically needed to know. How much has been lost, who are involved, and how was it lost? And then maybe advice on the weaknesses and the way forward. Advice on the weaknesses that we have and the way forward. So as we can see, some of the motives of forensic, some of the motives of the suspect or the perpetrators is basically to commit fraud. So fraud can happen when it involves several people or an individual. It doesn't matter. That is something that happens, and we know fraud can happen. That involves a lot of people or not. Now let's look at the process of conducting forensic investigation. Process of conducting forensic investigation. Andika hapo. The process of conducting investigation. Process of conducting forensic investigation. The process of conducting forensic investigation. That is a question that was set in exam. In exam, they might ask you, number one, what are the objective or the main aim of forensic auditor? That one I've told you. In exam, wakiuliza hivyo, I've told you that the aim is to be able to know how much was lost, who are involved, and what was the process that was followed when the crime was being committed or fraud, and probably what are the weaknesses in the client system that has made such kind of a loss. Tuko pamoja? Now, let's look at the process. Number one, a forensic investigator must also be engaged, just like normal audit engagement, where number one, he has to accept the invitation to perform the audit. So the first step, he needs to accept that he's going to perform that particular audit procedure. That is number one. So he needs to consider when he's accepting the invitation or investigation job or engagement. You can use any word: accepting the engagement, accepting the invitation, or any word. Number one, he needs to consider whether the firm has the necessary skills and experience to accept the work. What we mean here, as you accept the job, you are the auditor, forensic auditor. Ask yourself, does your firm has the required skills and experience and capacity in terms of the staffs who are going to perform that particular work? That is before you accept. You need first to understand this. So the forensic accountant must initially consider this before accepting to do the job. He needs to check whether he has the required skills and the experience. Number two, the detailed knowledge, whether he has the detailed knowledge of fraud investigation techniques and the legal framework. Anajiuliza, do I know how to do investigation? Do I have the technique? Do I have the knowledge? Sawa. That is what he needs to ask himself, whether he has detailed knowledge of fraud investigation technique and legal framework. Legal framework is very important. These are the stages that you need to follow as you perform your work. Because remember, as an auditor, the report that you are going to get from here will be used in court. And we don't want a situation where you go to court, you find yourself in more trouble because you are talking carelessly. Yani umeingia pale kotini, unaanza kusema vitu zenye hazifai. Inafaa unanyamaza pia, kwanza unapima whether, then you check whether you are allowed to speak or not. And even when you are told to speak, you only say what is relevant. There are skills that you need to use in court. So the legal framework of presenting your report. You don't just talk aimlessly, right? So we are saying he has to check whether he has the knowledge. Number two, whether he has the he knows the legal framework. Okay, number three, the investigator, which is the auditor here, that is the forensic auditor or accountant, must also have received training in interview and interrogation techniques and in how to maintain the safe custody of evidence gathered. When you are doing forensic audit, you'll be performing some interview, you'll be asking people some questions to be able to know or get information that you require. As an auditor, you'll collect your information through interview. So the question is, were you trained on the best way that you can interview people to be able to get the required information? If that happened, do you have the interrogation techniques? These are the techniques that you can use to, or styles that you can use to be able to interrogate somebody. Yani uchunguzi. Number three, do you have the knowledge on how you can actually keep the evidence that you've gathered safe? Because mostly these are very hot cases in court that maybe they are involving senior people, and the information that you are gathering, the evidence can be used for court proceeding, and it can actually tie somebody down. It can actually make somebody to be taken inside or to prison. So because of that, you need to always ensure that evidence are safe. Otherwise, if you don't keep the evidence safely, it has a poter. If it disappears, then definitely you don't have any case that you can proceed. Now, those are things that you need to ask yourself. So in exam, if you are asked, what are you supposed to consider before accepting an engagement in forensic audit? They're asking you about these things. Number one, the necessary skills and experience about the firm. Well, and in regards to the firm, does the firm has that necessary skill? Number two, the investigator, does he have the techniques, investigation techniques and legal framework? Does he have the knowledge of investigation technique and legal framework? Number three is about the interview and interrogation techniques and how to maintain custody of evidence gathered. Now, these ones can give you even 5 points. The first one is a point, the second one is a point, the third one, you can split up to here, interview techniques. Then you talk about the fourth one, interrogation techniques. Then interrogation is different from interview. Interview is just to ask somebody normal questions, but interrogation ni ile sasa kuchunguza. It is deeper. In fact, it's even threatening sometimes. When you're being interrogated by DCI, it is different from being interviewed. It's quite deeper. Then you need to also check whether you know how you can keep the evidence safely. Do you have a way you can keep evidence safely? Okay, so let's look at after accepting, you need to now plan on how to do the audit. After accepting that you can be able to perform forensic audit because you know the capacity and you have the skills, you now accept, then you start planning. Normal audit work also takes the same procedure. You start with accepting, then planning. Just in case umeulizwa, the normal audit procedures is the same thing. Accept, investigation or engagement. You can use the word engagement, then plan for the engagement. So under this, the objectives of the investigation will include, number one, during planning, number one, what you'll do when you're going to do forensic audit. Identify the type of fraud. You need to know which kind of fraud will happen. Is it on the payroll? And an example utaulizwa, how do you audit fraud that is in the payroll? How do you audit fraud that happens maybe under loans or in the bank account? How do you investigate a fraud that happens under maybe procurement department? What are some of the things that you need to check? So that is why, first, as an auditor, try to identify the type of fraud. So during planning, once you understand the type of fraud that has been operating, you need to understand yourself, how long has it been going on? If fraud, is it only for 1 year or it has gone for a long time? Yeah. So let me just explain to you something. I hope you can see the board. When fraud happens, normal audit you can be told to do maybe between January 1st, 2020 to maybe 31st, 2020 December. So you are doing audit only between this period. But for normal audit, you can go further than that. Actually, they don't have limit for fraud. Fraud could have happened maybe you realize that in June, you've been told to come and investigate. So one of the things that you are being told that you need to do during planning, you need to understand the type of fraud that was happening, how long has it been happening, because it can actually happen for more than 1 year going backward. Maybe Nikitu ilianza 2014 and it has been going on. Remember, one of the aims or objective is to be able to know how much has been stolen. So it needs you to go back to the previous period. It is fine, let it be. You can go back even to the farthest as possible, maybe even the last 10 years. At the end of the day, you want to know, number one, how long it has been happening, how much has been happening, who are involved, how did they do it? Unasikiza hizo maswali. Number one, you need to tell us fraud ilikuwa gani? How much was involved? How long has it been going on? Who are involved and how did it happen? Tuko pamoja. So that is why forensic is quite different from normal audit. With forensic, we are actually focused on getting those details and going deeper because that is what you're going to use in court. And for you, when you know how long it has been going, you can even have a better way of advising the management. You tell them that there's a loophole here. Because of this loophole, the fraud has been happening for this period. So if there was somebody who was involved and maybe alikula na akatoka, we can even call him back and can actually be taken to court. Yani alifanya kazi kwa hiyo kampuni na alitoka kama ameiba. If something happens and the fraud auditors can trace, the forensic auditor can trace backward and know that he was involved, hata kama alikuwa ametoka, with crime, that is criminal. Criminal cases, they never expire. You can actually sue this person at any time. And that is why some of the politicians, unasikia wakati wamekosana na gava kidogo tu, unaweza sikia story imeipuka. Wanasema ati, oh, wewe wakati ulikuwa unafanya pale pesa ilipotea, unapelekwa kotini, go and explain. Because criminal cases never expire. As long as there are evidence that can be brought before the court, it becomes valid. Sawa. Okay, so we are saying, after doing that, you are able to identify the type of fraud, how long it has been happening, and how the fraud has been concealed. Yani, how it has been happening. We have how long, and then we also have the procedure that they have been using to perform the fraud. You need now to identify the fraudsters. Unaona? So basically, these are the aim. These are the aim of forensic auditor. Identify ujue ni kina nani wanafanya hii kazi na wameiba. After knowing that, you need to get amount that was lost. Remember, I told you that from the introduction. You need to quantify the financial loss suffered by the client. How much amekuwa kipoteza. Then after that, you need to gather evidence to be able to support your finding. And those evidence can be used in court proceedings. They become part of court proceedings. So these are planning. So ask yourself, which technique am I going to be able to identify these things? Number one, to be able to know the type of fraud, how it has been happening, how long it has been happening, who are the fraudsters. These are the skills that we said. You need to know the knowledge of fraud investigation. Ask yourself, do you have that knowledge? That knowledge will help you now in planning and execution of the work. So you are planning very well, then provide advice to prevent reoccurrence of the fraud. That is also another aim, to be able to provide. So is a katikati, in case you are asked in exam, give us some of the objectives of fraud investigation or fraud auditors or auditing. These are exactly what they are asking you. At the end, the user or the court expects you to be able to explain all this. I hope tuko pamoja. Kama kuna swali unasema. Number 3, after planning very well and you know that you know how you're going to perform this work, you now go to the ground and start the actual execution. That execution is what we also call gathering evidence or evidence gathering. You now go and start looking for a way of collecting those particular evidence. So number 1, in order to gather detailed evidence, you need to do what? Number 1, the investigator must understand the specific type, that one we have seen, and how the fraud has been committed here to be on, how it has been concealed. Then the evidence should be sufficient to ultimately prove the integrity of the fraudster. You know, for any criminal case, you have to prove beyond doubt. Any criminal case, always the proof is very high. You have to prove with beyond doubt, because these are cases that can take somebody very far. So as an auditor, you need to come up with solid evidence beyond reproach. So we are saying you need to have sufficient the evidence should be sufficient to and ultimately prove the identity of the fraudsters. You can't accuse anybody. That's why we are saying that the evidence must be sufficient. Because you are going to actually accuse somebody. Among 10 staffs, you are only going to pick one. So you have to prove why you only picked one and why you feel that is the one who is involved. Because some things can happen because he didn't know, but some can happen that he knew. So you have to prove that he knew what he was doing and he is actually part of the fraudsters. So the mechanics of the fraud scheme and the amount of money that was suffered, you have to know how you can gather that evidence. You need to get enough evidence that supports the amount that was lost. So you need to get enough evidence that can support the amount that was lost and the people who are involved. Number 3, it is important during evidence gathering that the investigator or investigative team is skilled in collecting evidence that can be used in court cases and in keeping a clear chain of custody until the evidence is presented in court. Custody basically means that you're going to keep the evidence in your possession safely, just the way we are saying here. You need to check that you have the knowledge of keeping those evidence. You have a way of keeping the evidence safe. Yes. So during gathering, you also make sure that you can keep them safe. Otherwise, evidence can be gathered using various techniques. These are ways in which you can use to gather evidence for forensic audit. Remember, we are in the stage number 3. The first one was accepting the engagement, or you can say accepting investigation. The second one was planning for investigation. Number 3, evidence gathering. So we have said that these are things that you need to ensure as you gather evidence. We've talked about them. But now we are saying these are the techniques or skills that you need to have to be able to perform or collect evidence. Number 1, you'll do this. Testing controls to gather evidence which identifies the weakness which allow the fraud to happen. This is what I said. You are going to advise your client on how the fraud happened. You have to advise them where areas of weaknesses. So that is why it is very important that you test the controls to gather evidence which identifies the weakness which allow the fraud to happen. Kama, for example, the company doesn't have, for example, the policies. So people are just doing things without following a policy. Approval processes are just there. Yani ukitaka loan unapewa tu, hakuna procedure. So watu wamejipea loans, they have awarded themselves a lot of loans that they are not even paying back. That probably because of weakness in the internal controls, or probably the policies are not there. Or approval process. Anybody can actually come and without looking at the proper details, unampea loan. So that kind of situation actually exposes the client. And so you look at those weaknesses. They are the ones which are given an opportunity for fraud to happen. Now that we're talking about fraud, I want you to look at something here. Fraud triangle. So that we can know when I'm talking about weaknesses or opportunity that allows fraud to happen, you need to understand how that happened. So look at the board. A fraud triangle. In exam, they can ask you this, so be very keen. A triangle is something like this, fine. But we are saying that fraud doesn't just happen. For fraud to happen, there is something that has made it to happen. You cannot just go and steal. There must be a reason why you can steal. And one of the reasons is maybe you are talking about something like pressure, right? Pressure from your friends or competition. So our fraud triangle looks like this. So we have number 1, we have here opportunity, or we can say number 1, pressure. Then opportunity. Pressure, then opportunity. Then we have a rationalization. Before fraud happens, there is pressure from people, either your relatives, your friends, or any other person, like your mom can be telling you that, Juliet, I took you to school, now we graduate, it is 10 years now, that is pressure. We, Kama Boy Child, we also have our own pressure. One of them ni kwamba unaweza ambiwa, you can be told by probably your girlfriend that you see, Eric Omondi has been able to go to Dubai. Nimeona King Kaka amefanya hii, yeah. Bahati pia amebuy gift to the girlfriend. How comes wewe huwezi niletea hata kama ni gari ya Vitz, hata Vitz peke yake, hujai ni buyer. So because of that, those are the kind of pressure that you get in life. Now that pressure must be there for fraud to happen, because if there is no pressure, nothing will push me to go and steal, all right? So that is what we mean by pressure. Now when the pressure has happened, I hope you can see the board, upper due the pressure. When it has happened, the next thing, I look for an opportunity. Now that niko na pressure mingi, natafuta nafasi so that I can actually commit fraud. So I look at the opportunity. Now, this is what we are looking at. That as an auditor, you need to be able to test which opportunities were there, which weaknesses were actually there that made fraud to happen, that allowed this person to be able to commit fraud. That is what we are talking about. So those opportunities, if they are there, one of them could be lack of policy. Another one could be no segregation of duties. Or sometimes it is actually on the approval process, approval and authorization process. So those are just examples that can actually create opportunity. Whenever a company is operating in a way where we don't even have policies or we don't have segregation of duties, this is where we have not divided roles. In a given line of transaction, everybody can do anything from start to the end. Then we have approval process where one person can actually approve, or we don't even know who is supposed to be approving. We have not given them the authority and responsibility. So anybody can actually come and approve in the system, and things just go like that. So those cases we are saying, these are things that, examples of things that create opportunity. Now, mimi, nikishaona kuna pressure, and I've also seen that there is opportunity, what happens? I perform fraud. Nitatumia hiyo opportunity kuchukua pesa. But then after that, I'll come and comfort myself and say, you know, I've not even stolen. It's not bad. Because I've only taken the money that was there laying. It was just put there carelessly. Otherwise, I can even refund it. I've only taken because after all, this employer is paying me a little amount of money. I should be driving car. So I'm justifying myself. Now, the process of justifying yourself is what we call rationalization. You want to make your point to justify why you have stolen the money. So, justification. You are justifying yourself. I don't know whether it has happened to you. You do a mistake, then you start justifying yourself. Hata kuna mwenye amekuuliza, unaanza kujitetea, really? Nimefanya makosa, but after all, hata yeye pia si amekuwa akifanya. People have been stealing. I'm not the first one. Even gava wako na deni. Kwa hivyo hata nikikosa kulipa hii, hata nikichukua hii, I can pay. What is the worst that can happen? You are justifying yourself. Now, those are the opportunities that I wanted you to understand, that as an auditor, you try to look at some of the opportunities that could have actually allowed the fraud to happen. Now, the reason why we are looking at that particular area, as a management or auditors, you can't have control over pressure that actually that the fraudster is exposed to. Any pressure yenye huyu jamaa ako nayo, where huna control, you cannot avoid. Again, you cannot avoid or control the way he's actually justifying himself. The only thing that you can control in fraud is to make him lack the opportunity. Toa, make a strong control, remove all the opportunities, because these are what allows the fraud to happen. We have realized that maybe approval process is gonna shida. For example, in NYS, maybe it was approval process, maybe it was policies they didn't have. There was an opportunity for fraud to happen. That is what you deal with. You only kill that. Once you kill this, the fraud cannot happen without triangle. Hiyo kitu imekufa hivyo. There is no fraud that can happen. Hata kama kuna pressure, anajaribu kujustify whatever he wants to do, there is no opportunity. Kila kitu kumefungwa. Sawa. Let's get back to work. So after this, so as an auditor, you have been able to check those opportunities. That is what we're talking about, the weaknesses. They are what we call weaknesses here. You know, they are what we call weaknesses here, which allow the fraud to be perpetrated. Now, once you've been able to do tests and confirm where the weaknesses are, you've been able to do tests to confirm the opportunities that allowed him to perform the fraud. Number two, using analytical procedures to compare trends over time or to provide comparatives between different segments of the business. You can now perform analytical procedures. Analytical procedures meaning that you're just performing analysis. You are checking in terms of the variances that have been there. That will help you to know for how long has it been happening. A good example maybe I can tell you is that if you are able to perform some tests and you realize that maybe the revenue that has been generated for the few days that you are able to identify fraud, yani kuna fraud imekuwa ikifanyika, but then there's a point you realize that fraud was happening. The first thing that you did was to conceal that fraud, then start investigating going forward. Maybe you conceal the fraud by putting a policy, or you have sent the person who was causing fraud on suspension. He has been sent home or partial leave, meaning that at least we may cancel opportunity imetoka, sio? But now that you know, after the opportunity is out, now you are only remaining with a few areas to do. You now want to perform tests to know how much revenue is coming in. Kama ule mtu alikuwa anachukua every month that comes, anatuma kwa account yake. Now, wakati ya yuko, what is the amount that is coming in? So let's say that without fraud, the amount now is 200,000. But every month you are only getting maybe 50, and you are wondering why was it 50? So now you start performing analysis. You are now asking yourself, for January, when it started happening, until December last year, when we realized fraud, we've been earning only 50. Well, actually, we should have earned this. So you're doing analysis. Unaangalia every month, how much have you lost? Every month. Unaangalia, then you total up the amount that was lost. Unapata ni ngapi. You are supposed to get this, but you are getting this. Then you compare. That is what we mean there by analytical procedures, so that you can know amount of loss. That is what we mean there by performing the analysis, so that you can know amount of money that you've lost. Using analytical procedure to compare trends over time to provide comparative between different segments of the business. Applying computer-assisted audit techniques, for example, identifying the timing and location of the relevant details being altered in the computer system. What are they altering? What are they changing? Discussion and interviews with employees. That is also a way of gathering information. So you can gather information using analytical procedures to know the amount that has been lost over time. You can do tests to gather evidence and identify weaknesses. You can also use computer-assisted systems. We talked about this in our last class. The CAT, we talked about the computer techniques that you can be using to be able to perform and test which problems are within the system, which areas have been altered or mutilated. Discussion with the employees, trying to ask them maybe some questions that can help you be able to do what? To know what has been going on. Then substantive tests, which are involving recalculation. These are recalculations and cash counts and reviews of documents. So you are trying to reperform, and after analytical procedure, you now try to add them up and see how much that was lost. Those are ways of getting evidence. Of course, after gathering evidence, the last part is now reporting. You report the same to the right user. So the client will expect a report containing the findings of the investigation, including a summary of evidence and conclusion as to the amount of money that has been lost as a result of fraud. The report will also discuss how the fraudsters set up the fraud scheme, which controls were, and which controls, if any, were circumvented. It is also likely that the investigative team will recommend improvement of controls within the organization to prevent any similar fraud occurring in the future. Now, after giving that report, you now have one more job to do, to go to court and testify. You are now there as an expert, and you need to be able to use that particular report as part of the court proceeding. So utaenda pale na wewe pia usimame kama witness and you say that according to me, this is what I did to be able to gather evidence. So you are going to perform there as an expert and become part of the court proceeding witnesses. That is what we have there. Let's look at types of the frauds that we know. So tumeona hizo steps. The first step, I can repeat in summary: accepting engagement. Number 2, planning. Number 3, evidence collection. Number 4, reporting. Number 5, court proceeding. But don't worry, you'll get these notes. I'll be able to share these. Let's look at number the other one, the types of forensic investigation. So which areas do we normally perform forensic investigation? So number 1, where there is corruption. We can do forensic investigation where there is corruption. So which are the types of corruption that we know? The first type of corruption is called bribery. What is this? So, the person who is taking the money and the person who is giving, those are different people. Both of them are corrupt. Wewe ukipeana na mwenye amekuitisha, both of you are corrupt, but the names are different. Like now, look at this, bribe. It refers to dishonestly influencing one's role or position to receive something and at the same time promising something favorable to the party, proving such benefit. Mwenye anapeana ndio perform corruption that is called bribery. So wewe ukienda pale kwa office of maybe office of land and you're telling somebody to facilitate for you something, umpe kitu kidogo, he is accepting money. But when you may initiate, you want to give him, you are trying to influence his position, you want him to favor you, you are actually committing what is called bribery. You are bribing that person. So you are also corrupt. Him, the one who is receiving, is also corrupt, but yake is not called bribery. Let's continue. The problem with the bribery arises due to the fact that not always the problem with the bribery arises due to the fact that not always does one stand in such a position to offer anything. It hampers the interests and profits of the company when one acts beyond his authority. It was also illegal to do so. It's illegal to bribe somebody. Then we have extortion. So extortion is also corruption, taking a step ahead from bribery. Extortion involves the use of threat, force, or violence to extract money from another person or party. Somebody is telling you, if you don't do this, kama hujanipea kitu, kwanza maaskari wanatumia hii sana. Hiyo inaitwa extortion, sio bribe. Wewe ukimpea inaitwa bribe, that is corruption. Lakini wewe kama yeye ndiye amekusukuma umpe kitu kidogo, that is called extortion. He's using threat, atakupeleka mbele. He wants to beat you, anataka kufunga mkono, such things. So that is what we mean by extortion or violence, to extract money from another person. This may be done on the pretense of protection money. For small businesses, sophisticated schemes of cyber extortion, etc. The identification of extortion in company finances reduces its credibility in the eye of its clients, suppliers, etc., which is the primary reason for having a solid financial statement. So let's look at conflict of interest. This is also another one. So we know the differences here. Au mtu amefanya kitu nakwambia nipe pesa ndio nitakushow mahali your items are. I have your money, maybe I have your key or whatever. Nipe pesa kwanza. Then conflict of interest is also another corruption, but this one there's no direct gain. This is where you are actually picking your kazi ndio unataka achukue hiyo kazi, lakini not yourself. So you have interest, indirect interest, not direct gain. Hautapewa pesa, lakini unataka best yako ndiye apate hiyo kazi ama your cousin who is not qualified. That is also corruption. So on a related note, anything including bribery that is done with the intention to gain personal benefit and which is detrimental to the company forms the objective of a forensic audit. They have not defined it well, but that is what we mean by conflict of interest. Or you want somebody else like your wife, your contract. Those are also bad. Those are also corruption. When you are employing somebody because of how you know him or whom you know, that is corruption, self-interest. Okay, so those are areas where we want to know who did it, how did it happen, is there any amount that was lost, and how much was it, how long it has been going on, things like that. Let's now look at another area apart from corruption where fraud investigation can be done, forensic investigation. Another area where forensic investigation can be done. For the new guys, we are looking at a serious topic. It is called forensic audit. So don't keep on leaving and coming back. Then you ask for video later. Please be patient, take your time. Exam is around. And I can assure you, even the areas that we've covered right now is already examinable. Let me show you one of the years they said that question. One of the years that they were able to set this particular question was, let me show you so that you can know how serious we are. I'm seeing you guys keep on lefting and coming back. Lefting anytime and coming back, asking for notes, complaining that you've not been attending class. In 2019, they were asking, May 2019, question number 4B. You can write down and go and do your research. They were asking, citing two examples, explain the term fraudulent financial reporting. Fraudulent financial reporting, yani una report fraud. So that is one thing that they were asking. 2018, May 2018, andika chini, May 2018, question 5B, May 2018, question 5B. They were asking, explain three components of fraud triangle. Hii, tumesoma kama umetoka, tumesoma kama hauko, hiyo ni mtihani. They were asking, explain three components of fraud triangle. There are three. ISO. Number one, pressure. Number two, opportunity. Number three, rationalization, which was here. Opportunity for hapa, pressure iko huko juu. Those are three components of fraud triangle. November 2017. November 2017, they were asking, discuss 5 stages that might be followed in carrying out forensic audit. Hizo stages tumeona sahi. Discuss them, those 5 stages. Discuss 5 stages that might be followed in carrying out forensic audit. We have seen them. Number 1, accepting investigation. Number 2, planning for investigation. Number 3, evidence gathering. Number 4, reporting. Number 5, court proceeding. There are 5. You get your 10 marks. You are told to explain or discuss 10 marks. Even 2. So November 2015. That was December 2017. The one that I've just read about stages. November 2017. Sorry, November 2017. Question 5C. November 2015, November. Question number 1. November 2015, question number 1. They were asking, define the term forensic accounting. Imagine, na 2 marks, define the term forensic accounting. Explain a situation in which forensic accounting might be applied. Sasa hiyo ndio tuko hapa. Hapa tu application where you can apply in, hizo ndio sasa tunaangalia sahihi. Where forensic accounting can be applied. So basically, leo tunaangalia tu exam peke yake. Nothing else. Haya, so we are here. We are saying that forensic accountants can, forensic investigation can be done in corruption investigation. That is number one. That is types of forensic investigation that can be done. Number one, corruption is a forensic investigation that can be done. Number two, asset misappropriation. This is where you are taking the public money for your own use. And I know even you've done this. Na usiseme ati bado. Hii hata wewe umefanya. Can I tell you the best way? A good example. At your place of work, at some point you printed something using your employer's printer. Na ni kazi ya shule. Ama notes za CPA. Ukaprint pale ukiwa kazini. That is misappropriation of resources or assets. Sawa. So this one, almost everybody is actually committing. Mtu anakataa. Yes, Christabel, ushawahi fanya hii. Unangoja tu saa 11 wakati CEO amechoka hivi, watu wanatoka. Uko busy una print kila kitu. Alafu siku hizi we have controls. You can actually set computer printer in a way that you log in, print. So we give you printing limit. We'll be checking every time tunaangalia Christabel ameprint how many. At the end of the month, we can ask you, you are beyond 100 pieces. What were you printing? I used to do that as well. Before I read this particular unit, I used to do that. I realized that I've been also committing crime. Number two, cash. Most people use this. Like those days that I used to work in the bank, we had a colleague who was a teller. Abeste yake walikuwa wanachukua hizi pesa, wanaenda wanacheza nao sport pesa na wanarudisha. Cash, yeye ni teller. Anachukua, alafu anasema today we have sure bet. Anachukua kama 1000 anawekelea. Kiwekelea asubuhi, by saa 10 kabla tufunge, goli imeingia, anarudisha. That is cash theft. Stealing of physical cash, for example, petty cash from the premises of a company. And this happens a lot. Mid-month, by 15th, uko broke. Unachukua petty cash kama fare, unakula. Then unajaza form, ati ulienda sijui wapi na pikipiki. Sasa, okay. Let's look at fraud disbursement. A company funds being used to make fraudulent payments. Common example including billing schemes where payments are made to fictitious suppliers. Kama hii sasa ilikuwa ile ya KEMSA. Ati mtu anapita tu, anaitwa kuja hapa, we give you money. You remember that case? Somebody was testifying that with him he was just passing next to KEMSA. Alafu he was given money. Just imagine. I feel like just walking there today. So this one, these are fictitious suppliers. They supplied hewa na wanapewa pesa. That is fraudulent disbursement. How? You are being paid for just passing. Then we have inventory theft. This is where you are taking some things from the company. And this is why most companies are now having watchman. Ukitoka hivi anaangalia umetoka na nini. You know, people are stealing. Like a friend of mine used to work in a supermarket, Nakumat. The lady, she was a lady. She would just pass with some items anatoka nayo without passing them through the system. Anapitisha to inventories. Then misuse of assets. This one happens where you're using the company vehicle to go and visit your girlfriends, boyfriends. You take them out using company's vehicle. Ati wewe uko na gari yenye iko na number plate ya blue corporate. Those are misuse of assets. And MPs are doing this today to campaign as well. They use our security personnel and our motor vehicle, which are GK. Another fraud that can be investigated is financial statement fraud. So this is also known as fraudulent financial reporting. Tumeona hii. Guys, are we seeing that? Financial statement fraud. Christabel, Faith, Judith, Juliet. That is the first question that I asked here that was set in 2019. 2019. The question was saying, citing two examples, explain the term fraudulent financial reporting. That was May 2019 question 4B, andika chini. They were asking that you need to understand what a fraudulent reporting is and explain two examples. So this also, it is financial statement. This is where basically, let me explain to you in a layman language. Yani, as an auditor or accountant, you are trying to play with the figures to be able to show that you are making profit in the financial statement while you are actually making losses. So the main aim why you are changing the figures is to confuse some people and actually attract them or show them that you are doing well. The main aim is to confuse somebody. Yani unachanganyisha mtu mpaka anaona tu unafanya vizuri. That was in a layman language. But in terms of definition, financial, or we can call it fraudulent financial reporting, you can write down fraudulent financial reporting. It involves international, it involves misstatement. It involves financial misstatement. It involves financial misstatement to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage in any one or more ways as stated below. It involves financial misstatement obtained to obtain. It involves financial statement to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage as shown below. Number one, deception or deception, okay, deception such as manipulation, falsification, and alteration of accounting records or supporting documents. That is called fraudulent reporting or financial statement fraud. You are not stealing money. You are only changing figures on the financial statement. You are not taking physical money ati unatoroka nayo, no. Unaenda pale kwa record kwa system, unaanza manipulate things. That is what we mean financial statement fraud, so that the financial statement can look admirable, favorable. So it is about deception such as manipulation, comma. It involves deception, that is number one. Deception such as manipulation, comma, falsification or alteration of accounting records, alteration of accounting records or supporting documents. Then you want to alter supporting document or you alter financial records in the system. That is what we mean fraudulent reporting. You want to report a fraud. You are reporting fraud. You are not reporting the truth. So that is an example of fraudulent reporting. We were told to explain giving example of two. We have explained giving example that it involves manipulation, falsification, and alteration of accounting records. Number two, misrepresentation or intentional omission. You misrepresent or you intentionally omit. That is what you mean. Misrepresentation or intentional omission from the financial statement, significant events or transactions or other information. Yani umeamua tu kumiss or you omit some significant transaction or statements or information that you know should have appeared. Unatoa, unaacha, una-assume. Sio unadanganya, you are relying on the financial statement. So it is financial fraud, where you do what is called misrepresentation or intentional omission from the financial statement, significant events, transactions, or other information. That is also a fraud. So the first fraud was manipulation. The second fraud is now omission of some information. The third one, the third example of fraudulent reporting, intentional misapplication of accounting principles. Yani sasa umeingilia accounting principle. Intentional misapplication of accounting principle, intentional misapplication of accounting principles relating to measurements, recognition, classification, accounting principles relating to measurements, recognition, classification, presentation, or disclosure of material transactions, So that case, that means that you're also still involved in fraud. Why are you trying to misapply accounting principles so that you can actually insinuate that whatever you're giving is the correct financial reports when you know very well that it is not? Let's come back here. I hope that one is okay. Let's come back here. So we are saying that it is also non-financial statement is also known as financial report, fraudulent financial reporting. And is a type of fraud that causes material misstatement of the financial statements. The main aim is just to misstate the financial reporting statement, whether you are omitting, changing policy, or manipulating. Those are three. You can omit some information, you can change certain policies of reporting, or you can physically manipulate, literally manipulate figures. That is three ways in which you can cause this. So a main aim is to misstate the financial statement. It can include deliberate falsification of accounting records, omission of transactions, balances, or disclosure from the financial statement, or the misapplication of financial reporting standard. This is often carried out with the intention of presenting the financial statement with a particular bias. Your main aim is to give some biasness or to be biased. For example, concealing liabilities in order to improve any analysis of liquidity and gearing. So let's look at approaches of accounting, forensic accounting assignments. Assuming that you've been given this particular job, how do you approach the audit work? How do you approach it? Number one, meet the client. See, it's obvious. You are going to meet the client. You've been given the job, umeshinda kazi, unakutana na client number one. So the reason is to be able to understand the important facts about the fraud. So which kind of discussion will you have with the client? I normally tell my students, this is something that was said during my time, that you are meeting the client for the first time to do to plan for the audit. What are some of the discussions that you will have with the client? You don't discuss about the weather, the temperature, political environment. No. You are going to discuss about the business. So in exam, if you are told, tell us some of the things that you are going to discuss with the client, they can give you a case study that you are the audit manager of LLP or so and associate. You've been actually given an opportunity to have the first meeting with the client. You meet the client, discuss what you will, or explain the kind of discussion you will have with the client. Unashangaa, sasa hao watu wanataka niseme nini? Which discussion? Ndio hii sasa nakwambia. Number one, you need to know nature of the assignment. You'll discuss with the client so that you know more about the assignment. Number one. Number two, you need to know if it is fraud. You need to know the type of fraud that have happened. That is the kind of discussion. If it is not fraud, you need to know the type of audit and what they expect to be reported. Number three, if it is fraud, you might ask the client to know, to understand the kind of system that they're using and probably how they came to know that fraud has been happening. Unamuuliza, sasa wewe, umejuaje fraud has been happening? How did you know that fraud has been happening? And do you know any person who was involved? How are the controls? And how much do you think has been lost? Unaelewa hiyo maswali. Those are the discussion you have with the client. How much do you think was lost? What are your procedures of operation? So that you can understand where the weaknesses are. Discuss with the client. Unamuuliza procedure. Unamuuliza client, who are the people authorized, or what is the structure of the organization, so that we can know who was supposed to do what. What is the structure of the organization? You can also ask the client if they know how long the fraud has been happening. You might also ask for internal controls that they have on the ground. Do they have internal auditor? Do they have policies You know, you can ask such kind of things. So you can see, in case you are asked an exam, those ones you will not find in my notes. But the auditor, the marker or examiner expect that you attended my class, so you know that this is what can be said. They assume like that. You can also discuss with the client about the audit fee and any other disbursement. Kama kuna extra cost that you can actually incur, you can discuss with the client. You can also discuss with the client for forensic the status of this particular case in court. Because for you to be called, probably it has gone to court. What is the status? You may pick a which stage. You can also request the client to give you some of his evidence, any evidence that he has to show that fraud has been happening. I hope to go pamoja. So, okay, you've been given the job, you met the client, so you will perform what is called perform a conflict check. Check whether, of course, when you're meeting the client, you'll have a lot of discussion. But assuming that everything went well, you are ready to perform the work and you now have a discussion with the client or metosheka, you will ask yourself whether there is any conflict of interest. Yani unauliza client, kama kuna any of your neighbor that is related with him that can make you not perform the job, any related or conflict of interest. So this will be carried out as soon as possible, as relevant parties are established, so that you don't find yourself auditing your own lecturer. You can't come and audit me and I know that you are Regina, that I taught audit and knows me very well, then you want to come and audit me. That will be conflict of interest. Nakwambia wewe cheza kama wewe. Hizo maneno unapata hapo, achana nayo. So any conflict of interest, whether you are the supplier, whether your boyfriend is the CEO, whether you have a fiancé there, whether your former teacher, whether your in-law is the director, you need to check that the firm does not have conflict of interest, the audit firm does not have conflict of interest, and the investigation team also do not have conflict of interest. After ensuring that, you now come to perform an initial investigation. So you start prior to initial investigation. So prior to detailed plan of action for better planning of the investigation. So you can perform some inquiries. You met the client, you've checked no conflict of interest. You now start doing some inquiry. Now probably at this inquiry, you'll be able to know more about the company and the nature of fraud so that you can plan well. You do some initial investigation or initial inquiry. With this, you'll gather information that will help you to plan for the audit. Because through this, you can be able to know the type of fraud and how long it has been happening. You will even know whether you need an expert to come and help you. Now, once umeelewa hiyo, you now come and now start planning to be able to perform the audit work. Of course, this is based on the meeting and investigation and set the objectives to be achieved. So plan will be based on the meeting that you had and the investigation that you did, so you know what you want to plan. Then obtain the relevant evidence. Depending on the nature of the case, documents, assets, persons, or proof of the occurrence, you will perform this is now the evidence collection. After planning, so you can come and now execute. That's the stage, obtain the relevant documents or execution. Then after that, you come back to your office and try to analyze. You perform your analysis, where we can even use now regression equation that can show the relationship or dependent variances. You know, the y is equal to a plus bx. That is the regression equation. You now look at x dependent on y. And we have a constant. So whenever we were seeing that y was here, we know that x must be doing something because they are a relationship. So kama y ndio ina depend on x, then we know. For example, you realize that maybe there are people who are colluding. So if these people are colluding and they were working on the same shift, we want to see the amount of transactions that they were doing, that everything that this person actually did an input. Y x akifanya tu input hivi, then x, y is authorizing. When x does input, x, y is authorizing. So basically, we know that all those transactions for that day could have gone through. We now need to execute and perform some tests, do what is called calculating economic dangers or losses, and perform tracing of assets, tracing of amount that are lost, you can use computer or any other procedure to be able to gather more evidence. So after that, you now prepare the report now that you've analyzed and you have the facts, or at least enough sufficient evidence. You now make the report. So this is basically the approach. This is the approach, but it is not the stages in forensic audit. It is the approach. Tuko pamoja? If you are told how do you approach that work, you are going to use this. If you are told about the stages, ni zile 5 za kwanza. So don't confuse the two. Now, which kind of knowledge or skills do we require for you to be able to perform this forensic audit job? We need skills, right? One of the skills is called core skills. Somebody has a question. Does it? It does not have court proceeding. No, after reporting now, you can go to court. These are the approach of doing the work, not the stages of concluding forensic. Approach is just basically what you're going to do to perform the work from the start to the last. Yani vile utaanza hiyo kazi. Mtu akakwambia, how do you approach this lady? Or how do you approach this case? Utaanza aje. That is what they mean here. That is the approach. We are not now concerned about the outcome. We are not concerned about after doing that job, what you are going to do with it. No, no, that is why they are different. So we are not looking at how you will start the work, not what you need to do to start the work. Utaanza by meeting the client. We are not asking you whether you are even going to accept the assignments. Hizo tulikuwa tumeona hapa. This is where the case is. Ilikuwa wapi? Ilikuwa wapi? We say that these are the stages. You first or process, stage or process, accept the assignment, plan, then collect evidence, which you can say, call it execution. Then we have reporting, then court proceeding. Those are processes of forensic investigation, but not the approach. That is process of conducting or steps of conducting, but not the approach. Sometimes they can call it stages, but not approach. Approach ni kama formula. Formula gani utatumia? Okay, so let's proceed. So we are saying, for you to be able to perform this skill, we know that forensic auditor has some skills. He has skills for the normal auditors, but then he has another skill that auditors do not have that only relate to forensic investigation. So for you to be a good forensic auditor, you need to first understand the normal audit procedures. Then on top of that, sasa ongeza yako ya forensic, because you need extra knowledge to be able to know how you will be able to present your report in court, and even how you present yourself, and even how you can be composed during court proceeding. So those are things that you don't expect a normal auditor to have. Only you, because when you unaenda kotini, sio yeye. So we need the core skills, and then there are non-core skills. These are the core skills that we can actually teach you from here. Those are the ones that are quite basic. We need to train you so that you know. But the non-core, these are inborn. Zile umezaliwa nayo, I can't even do anything about it, but we expect you to have it. Like now, confidence. How can I teach you about being confident? That is not there. Articulating words. Most people are good teachers, but they cannot teach. You know, we have some good teachers who cannot even teach. They have skills, but they cannot deliver. Some people also have a lot of knowledge, but they are not a good orators. They can write good books, but when they're speaking, they are so boring. I know you know some of them. Those are called non-personal, non-core skills. They are personal things. Hizo unaachana nayo, hakuna sule utapata hizo. Now, the core skills that we can train you here that relates to forensic audit. Number one are these ones. Ability to critically analyze financial statement. That one you cannot be born with. Lazima, you learn. Ability to be able to critically analyze financial statements so that you can drive meaning out of it. In fact, forensic auditors, they normally perform tests that try to know why things are happening the way they are happening. Forensic auditors are not like financial auditors. Financial auditors look at the figures, but forensic auditors look behind the figures. Why are they? The question of why. What was in the mind of the fraudster? What was in the mind of accountant? Akifanya hii alikuwa anafikiria nini? That is what forensic auditors do. So when you analyze the financial statement, you should be able to know why it appears the way it is. What was at the back of the mind of the accountant? So these skills help forensic auditor to uncover abnormal patterns in accounting information and recognize their sources. Number two, the second knowledge is ability to grasp internal control system. Of course, the ability to be able to understand controls. That is something that we can teach you, and we've taught you under our course. Proficiency in information technology, how to use computers and maybe be able to do some tests using computer. That one we can teach you, and you're expected to learn when you want to become forensic auditor. The skills assist accountants to conduct investigation in the E areas. These are areas that involves internet or basically technology like e-banking, e-commerce, etc., and computerized accounting system. Another thing that we can teach you, apart from those three, we can also teach you on knowledge of psychology in order to understand the thinking and the motive behind criminal. These things that you can be taught. Unasoma akili ya mtu, unajua huyu akiongea hivi inaweza kuwa hivi, because when you are trying to investigate or interview somebody, maybe is one of the perpetrators, and now umemshika hapa, unamuuliza maswali. How can you know thinking or understand his thinking or his motive? These are what mostly the DCIs are trying to do. When you become a DCI, you will be going through course like that, psychology, so that you can know who is saying the truth na uongo. The next one, in-depth understanding of the fraud scheme, such as misappropriation, money laundering, bribery, and corruption. How do you understand the scheme? How does it happen? So those are in-depth understanding of fraud. That is also important. Then thorough insight and knowledge of companies, governance, policies, and laws. We need also to tell you about the laws that regulates the company, and of course the policies are also used. The next one, interpersonal communication skills. We can actually help you to be able to speak good English. People speak English because they went to school, which is an aid in acquiring information about the company's ethical policies and assisting forensic accountants to conduct interviews and obtain critical needed information. Of course, interpersonal and communication skills are very important in doing your interview, doing your investigation, and even presenting such kind of reports that you'll get before the court during court proceedings. Those are things that you can be taught. Then command of criminal and civil law, legal system, and court procedures. We need to also teach you the court procedures. Usianze kuropoka when you are not supposed to talk. You need to know when are you supposed to say what and why. So those are command of criminal and civil laws, how they should be conducted, and also understand the legal system, how the system works, and court procedures. Those are things that you need to be taught. Now let's look at the key, the non-core skills, the ones that we don't need to tell you. Number one, sound professional judgment. Even if I train you well on how to perform analysis, when it comes to judgment, that is personal. Whatever you can see is right, might be wrong on my side. And so that's something that is quite subjective. Kila mtu akona yake, professional judgment. Looking beyond the numbers and grab substance of situation. A sixth sense that can be used to reconstruct details of past accounting transactions is also beneficial. Yani, you are trying to go or being skeptical beyond what you are seeing, right? We normally have how many senses? Are they 5? We have how many senses, guys? Ebu sema rakaraka tijue. We have how many senses? Kuna hearing, seeing, feeling, gani tena? The 5. Touch, there are 5. 5, eh? So above those 5, they are telling you that you need to have the 6th one. That 6th one ndio sasa itakusaidia kuelewa some of the things that you are doing. Aya. About state hizo 5 hapa tuone. I don't know which ones. I know touch, number one, hearing, feeling. Somebody has given me. But women have 6 already. So women can be investigators. Eh? They can be forensic investigators. Wow. Lakini sometimes you guys have 6, lakini hizo 6 za uongo. I remember there's a girlfriend I used to have kitambo. Tulikuwa tunapigana kila siku, anashinda tu ikisema, wewe, I don't trust you. And I imagine I was just normal. Like, she keeps on complaining, but that 6th sense was lying. Juliet, anashinda tu akinisumbua ati, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. Imagine. And I was very loyal. So that 6th sense, I really doubt it. How do you call that 6th one? Okay, so let's look at, yeah. Paul, you can tell them, sindio? Sasa zingine tuko tu sawa, hata hauna maneno, lakini unasumbuliwa hata unashangaa niweke kichwa wapi? Wapi? Ati 6th sense imesema. Yes, babe, true. Ati their 6th sense. I want to know that 6th sense. Imesema. So hata una peace, ati imesema. Yana sielewi ni nini. Okay, so let's look at which one is it? Juliet. Yenye napiga tu kelele wakati napenda. Inaamua tu saa zingine iko tu na mood swing at 6th sense. Iko na mood swing. I doubt it. Hizo ni my excuse. So differences between forensic accounting and auditing. Na hapo pia inaweza kuja kwa exam. I'm trying to look for questions where they have set it, but they can bring it. Let's look at the differences. Number one, auditors' work serves public interest. We say that the report that you're giving for audit is used by the users, the third party. The users are like the public. We have the suppliers, we have the shareholders, we have competitors, we have regulators, we have government. Those are users of financial information in audit, all right? But what about the forensic? Do you want to take it to everyone? Like the one that you're taking and publishing huko kwa gazeti? Forensic accounts work, on the other hand, serves the interest of the parties that hired them. Wenye wanataka hiyo report peke yake, sio kila mtu kama ile, na huwezi weka kwa gazeti. Ati sasa unaenda kupublish hiyo report. No. Unless mtu anataka tu kusema tu just for clarity, but the details of the report is meant to serve the user, the person who hired you to do it. It could be the court or the client. The next one, auditor's work stands on its own, but a forensic accountant's work supports the work of the legal counsel on the board. Repeat again. Auditor's work stands on its own, but a forensic accountant's work supports the work of the legal. Tuko pamoja. Forensic report is used to support it, or it becomes evidence as part of the court proceeding. That is the legal counsel. The legal counsel. How when you wako pale kotini, you are doing your work to be able to support them, meaning that your work alone is not sufficient. It has to be together with the one that was in court. Ndio hiyo kesi iendelee. Lakini ya auditor, there is nothing like that. Financial audit, hakuna kitu ingine, you don't need to attach it to another one. It does not have to be a supporting document like in the other case. Yes, the next one. The next one is about the auditor's opinion. The normal financial audit, we normally express an opinion. But forensic, we don't express an opinion. Forensic accountants recommend changes. They only make changes. Your conclusion is there was a weakness in internal control, fanya hivi na hivi. That is it. They only recommend changes. Sawa. The next one, The next one, the auditors are concerned with errors and irregularities. The auditors are concerned with errors and irregularities. Forensic accountants are concerned with the distinction between errors of judgment or deliberate misrepresentation. They want to be concerned with misrepresentation, or basically those reports that are done intentionally. But auditors are not looking at the reports that you've given, wrong reports that you've given intentionally. They're only looking for the errors or irregularities that could exist, but they are not following individual person at wewe umefanya hii deliberately. The relationship between the auditor and the client is one of openness. For accounting report, accounting and in forensic auditing, their client is very open to you. Atakwambia kila kitu, because he knows that that report will not go anywhere that can actually sue him. Lakini, the relationship between a forensic accountant and the party in being investigated is usually adversarial. It is adverse. Unauliza mtu maswali yenye itamuingiza ndani. So it is an adverse situation. This is not openness. Hata kuambia everything vile unataka. Atakuwa skeptical, very sensitive or conscious. That is it. So the relationship differs. The relationship between the two differs. I hope you are writing these points. Audit work does not disrupt work environment of the client. Audit work can happen when environment is still continuing, everything is continuing. But when we are talking about forensic, things can actually stop. Because if they continue, pesa inaweza endelea kupotea ama wanaweza ficha vitu. So when you are doing forensic, you might even suspend the finance manager, you might even suspend some people who are involved. You know, it is quite difficult to do. You know, unataka tu kudisrupt vitu. Watu wangoje, umalize kwanza. Wakiwa hapo, wanaweza change vitu, si ndio? Lakini, the normal audit work can happen in an environment where the client also continues with the work. There is no disruption, no sending somebody home on compulsory leave. Clients are always full of an understanding of the scope. Normally, the client knows the scope of the financial audit. Forensic, they don't know the scope. They might not know the scope, how long you will go, what are the areas that you want to check. The client doesn't know. Here, amekaa tu hapo kwa giza. I hope you are looking at that in terms of scope. Under forensic accounting audit, auditors meet regularly on schedule with the audit committee. They have so many meetings with the audit committee. They talk with the employee, and on as need to need basis with the executive management. Lakini forensic accountants have continual access to executive management and frequent but irregular contacts with the audit committee. You can't even plan. Irregular. Ni ile wanaambush tu dakika kidogo, you can't plan. But the other one, they make some planning. You know, they meet when they plan. This one, ni ile impromptu visit too. And then they thoroughly access executive records or management records. Major differences between major differences stuff between audits and forensic accounting investigation. There are major differences. Auditors often use attribute sampling of test and variable. I think I've given you a lot of points. These ones you can also look at later. Audit work is not protected under attorney-client privilege. Most forensic account work is structured to be done in a privileged environment. Auditors must work without indemnification, protection. By the way, there is no indemnity like this one. In forensic, there is normally indemnity. Forensic work usually has both indemnity and hold harmless protection. Because report that you're going to use if you are a forensic auditor, remember that you need to be protected. So you need to have indemnity. It can be used against you. You're going to be a witness on a case where the accused also has a lawyer. Mwenye umefanya investigation kwake na unampeleka kotini, you are going to testify against, ye pia kuna lawyer wake. Na huyo lawyer anaweza kuingiza ndani hata wewe. Atakuuliza, are you qualified? Yes. What procedures did you use? Hii. How did you know? Was the system working? Inafika mahali wewe pia unaingizwa ndani wanasema, you are a professional who is lying. So that is why we have to be protected. Lakini, so it means that it is quite risky. Utaulizwa maswali na uwekwe ndani. Because unaenda hapo na kielele ati wewe ni witness, ati wewe ndio yule mzee forensic auditor, utawekwa ndani. You need to be protected, but for normal audit, that high level of protection is not there. That high level of protection is not there. Okay, the next one. Auditor determines the nature, scope, and extent of the audit. That is in case of normal audit, they determine the audit and they are decided. But in case of forensic accounting, they are determined by the client. Client anakuambia, the person who has hired you, anakuambia, check for me only receivable, check only payroll, or check only payables. But for forensic, for normal audit, the client doesn't have to direct you. Wewe unaangalia kila mahali. It's called statutory audit. Statutory audit. It is because of this that the forensic accountants get indemnification and liability protection from the client. The auditor presumes the validity of the documents and information, but for forensic, it does not. Here, the auditor assumes that he has done the test and those figures are valid. Lakini for forensic, you can't say that you are sure those things are valid. Uchajiingiza kwa shida. You only give what you can manage. Okay, up to here, where we are, I just want to get comment from you guys. Are we okay up to there? Are we okay up to there? Are we okay up to there? Thank you. Sawa. Is there anybody who is doing tax, PFT? Who is doing PFT? Just say, I take PFT. Or just say, I do. Who is taking PFT here? Tax. I want to know whether we can take a break and continue to maliza hii topic leo. So kama kuna mwenye ana take PFT, can we take a break of 30 minutes or 20 minutes, then we come back and continue. Imebaki, when you look at this, we are in page 6, there are 11 pages, then we are done with this topic. We are in page 6 and there are 11. So we can come back for another maybe 45 to 1 hour hivi tutaenda mbio tumalize hii topic, we proceed. Next week we start another topic. Tomorrow we start a new topic. Can we take a break and then come back? I want to see comments. It's all about sacrifice. Please let me know whether you feel like we are tired or we take a break, because I'm looking at this. We have around 5 topics to go and we are in topic 10. We still have around 4 to 5. Which topic tomorrow? Tomorrow we shall start topic number Tomorrow we shall start topic number 11. It is about fraud and irregularities. We'll also look at errors on it, some errors, fraud, irregularities, and errors. That is topic number 11. Then topic number 12 is about evidence. We still have at least report to Lekbanya. Topic number, we have done topic number 14, that is about reports. Kama ukwa, you need to get notes, that one we've done. Topic number 16 is about contemporary and emerging issues. Those ones we can do if you have time. So we basically remain with 12, 13, and 15. You said that we take 10 minutes break, then to endelea for 40 minutes. That's okay. Is that okay with everyone? I think that should be enough for me to clear this particular topic. Tuko pamoja hapo. Just comment to end a break. Kama umechoka pia useme tukutane kesho. Mekubali. Aha. I've not seen some guys commenting. Faith, Judy, Juliet. Hebu ongea haraka tuende bwana. Regina, you're back. Thank you. Please kindly talk. What do you think? Paul amekubali. Juliet amekubali. Christabel amekubali. What about the rest? Okay, so I think the number is back. The number is back. So we were here, forensic data analysis. So this basically data that has been collected and being analyzed for forensic purposes. It is not, it is just a technology that is used to be able to investigate forensic data information. So in this particular case, the main aim is to be able to do analysis and check whether you can be able to detect any anomalies in the data that you've collected. Or maybe there are some variations in the patterns that can indicate there are some fraudulent activities. That is what you need to do. Now, when you're doing this forensic data analysis, there are three people that are very important. Number one, you need data analyst who can be able to do the technical steps. Number two, you need somebody who has experience in the process and internal controls. Number three, you need a scientist or forensic scientist who can be able to interpret the patterns that show fraudulent behavior. Forensic scientist who can be able to perform a test and show maybe wherever there is fraudulent behavior. Sasa, thank you very much. Now, let's go back to audit procedures. We have seen a lot of stages. We have seen stages of performing forensic audit, or maybe we can call them steps. But then we have also seen approaches. Now, what is the audit procedure? In exam, they can bring you a case study like the one that we are going to see here. What are some of the common approaches? Even though the approaches depend with the nature of investigation being performed, because we have forensic investigation on payroll, we have some in bankings, we have some payables, and even receivable. So the nature depends on the area. The audit procedure depends on the nature of fraud that has happened. But then the commonly applied or the normal ones are the following. Number one, you need to develop the profile of the company. You need to understand the company very well in terms of who are the personnel. So you need to understand the organogram, or probably the way authority are delegated. You need to understand the structure of the company. So with that, you can be able to know who are responsible for what and what are their rights. Number two, you need to identify any weaknesses in the internal control processes, and you need to check whether they are doing maybe bank reconciliations. You can also perform that. Number three, you need to check if there is any trend. You can perform trend analysis and analytical procedures to identify if there is any variations from the norm, if there is any variations on the transactions from the normal ones. So when you perform trend analysis, you can be able to see that the transactions that you are seeing, the trends are actually different from what is expected. Number four, identify changes in terms of the patterns of purchase or sales, especially where we have limited number of suppliers. You can find that there are people who are given more sales or more purchases than others. So you need to understand why do they give chances to some suppliers more than the others. That is one thing that you can be able to use when you are performing forensic investigation, especially in areas that deals with maybe sales or sub purchases. For example, somebody can be giving, maybe you have like 3 suppliers. The 3 suppliers supplying the same product. One is even expensive, but the one that is expensive ndio anapewa mingi kushinda yule mwingine. That can show that maybe they are colluding with the supplier so that the supplier can provide more at a higher price, alafu wanagawana hiyo price. So that is whatever is excess. That is why you need to check on the patterns of purchases. You need to check on the patterns of purchases. The same to sales. They can be making sales, but the money is being diverted. Like recently, we were given a case where the sales manager was actually making sales, collecting, but not recording or acknowledging that he has received. So we find that the client is paying to him directly through M-Pesa or his bank account, but is not reporting the same to the client. The customer gives him, but is not reporting the same to his boss. So again, the sales patterns might show you whether fraud is happening. Goods are being sold, nothing much received as income. You can also look at the variations in consumption of materials that were being used before. Right now, they are now being used more. For example, if a hotel was serving 100 customers, at the cost of material was maybe 10,000. With 10,000, you can serve 100,000. But right now, they are still serving the same customers, but now the consumption appears to be excess. They are now consuming 20K for the same amount of food, or maybe the number of customers. Then you ask yourself, what could be the changes? Is there a change in price? No. Is there a change in supply? What could be the cost? So you might do your investigation and realize that some of the goods that they are showing or expensing did not actually arrive at the premises. They were not actually supplied. They are only showing that the cost has gone up, escalating, but they cannot be traced. So that is why when you are checking looking at the procurement or purchases, it is very important that you look at that particular area. You can also be checking the account balances, especially the opening and closing account balances. They are quite unusual balances that cannot be traced. You can look at the credit balances or debit balances. Number one, the variations can be on the way the year-end transactions were brought forward. Vile walifunga mwaka and the way they are opening can cause some variation. Then number two, you can also realize that they have maybe some things like maybe they are having suspense account that is always there. Like a client that we were auditing in 2020, the client had suspense account and the money was always in that account. Hakuna siku napata hiyo suspense account iko clear, because suspense account should only be used temporarily when you are not sure who has paid. But then you need to follow up and know who has paid so that you can reconcile it. But whenever you realize that every given time, the balance in the suspense account is around 1 million, that is a mixture of both deposit and maybe withdrawals. Then you ask yourself, why is it not going through the normal account statement, the normal accounting? Why are they using the suspense account? So the balances needs to be very clear, and you check the account balances, both credit and debits. You can also check. So I'm telling you that fraud can happen through suspense account, or we call them cash pending accounts. The accounts that are opened for reconciliation, you can put money there when you don't know exactly where to post it. You can debit it there, but then you need to have time. You give yourself a limit that within maybe 2 months, it can actually be cleared or actually indicated as income or whatever, so that it can be written off. Other areas you can be looking at unusual transactions. When you're doing forensic audit, you need to check unusual transactions. When you see that their transactions are quite huge, that client is not in the client list, you know, as an auditor, you need to request your client to give you the list of all clients. All clients. So when you realize, and all suppliers, when you realize that there are transactions that are happening that are not in the list of the clients that you have, or probably suppliers, then you can ask yourself, where are the payments going to? The accounts that we are seeing being affected are not even among the accounts that we have in our books. There are some huge transactions that are also questionable. Maybe unaona figure kama 1 million imetoka, unajiuliza hii pesa ilikuwa ya nini? That is the procedure of performing. They are not in any order. You can do any test first before the other. So when you talk about the procedure of audit procedure, does not mean that you have to follow them step by step. No. Unaweza fanya yote tu, so long as you are doing your test and confirming whatever you want to confirm. So that is unusual transactions, that especially the large accounting records, large entries in the books, a transaction not executed at normal commercial rates. So you ask yourself, why are they very unique? They are not like others. Another one, you can also check whether there are discrepancies, where we have discrepancies in terms of, or inconsistency in terms of maybe invoices and delivery notes. Invoice and delivery notes should be actually rhyming. They should show the same quantity and the nature of the same items that were supplied. The nature should be the same. So whenever you realize that whatever you actually delivered to client and what you billed are different, what could be a cause? The client requested you to supply maybe 100 textbook. You supplied 100 textbook, but then you are billing less or billing more. Whenever there are consistency in transaction documentation, then that is also something that you need to take note of when you're doing audit. The next one, once you've identified and traced the individuals that are quite responsible, you need also to trace the individuals that are quite responsible for fraudulent transactions. You can also question them or query them about maybe to explain to you what happened, how did they get the rights, how long it has been happening. You need to investigate even the call logs. You can be able to check the people they have been talking to of late or immediately the transaction happened, walikuwa naongea na kina nani, because utapata somebody is waiting, immediately they post the transaction, somebody is withdrawing. So as you do audit, you can be even testing the logins details, the call logs, wameongea na nani, wale logins ngapi, pesa ilipelekwa wapi, M-Pesa statements. You can do thorough audit and be able to know, really, this is how the transaction has been going. And this is the person they are coordinating with. Those are just part of the audit procedures that you can be able to do, especially when the call logs are using, where they're using extension of the office, you can be able to trace the call logs. Okay, the next one, you can be obtaining responsibility, information regarding the responsibility of the individuals that were involved, that one I explained, and their rights. What are their rights? What are their responsibility? Na walikuwa nafanya kazi gani? Are they performing beyond their responsibility? Job description, you can be able to check as per the HR requirements, what were their role as per the job responsibility or job card. So those are some of the things that you can do. You can also do an analytical test to check whether there are any variances, the way I explained earlier. That maybe 2020 you are making good amount, so what is the amount of loss that you've incurred? So these are audit procedures that you might perform, but let's look at an illustration, how they can bring this in exam. Look at this. In an exam scenario, they can tell you that you've been appointed as the manager for forensic investigation. You are the manager, you are a manager in the forensic investigation department of an audit firm. So you have been approached by the financial director of an old company to investigate a fraud that they feel has happened. The directors has actually identified a number of discrepancies between inventory records and the quarterly physical inventory counts. Tuko pamoja? The inventory record in the system and what we have physically or what we normally count physically are different. So first you need to understand and bring to the picture the kind of investigation that you want to do. We have system with accounts. The system shows the amount of records, the records that we have as per the supplier's record, what the supplier sent or what was ordered. So according to the accountants, maybe the record shows 100,000 units or 100 units, but when you count them physically, there are variances, they are less. So you ask yourself, how comes? Does it mean that when they use, they don't reduce in the system? Every time you use a stock, inafaa upunguze kwa systems, ndio? So that we reduce the variances. So they feel some frauds are happening. So their suspension had been increased by the fact that discrepancies relate to the same product line. That is why the other time I was telling you, you need to look at the correlation and regression. so that you see that there is a relationship between this and this. Whenever there is change in Y, there is normally change in X. So how long has it been happening and what is the magnitude? So in this, they are also seeing some relationship that the discrepancy relates to same product line. Only one product line has been affected and approximately the same number of items appear to be missing each time. Every day unapata tu kama two loaves of bread zinapotea, 2 loaves of bread inapotea. That is record. Record yako unaona kuna 50 loaves of bread. Physically, you have 48. So every day kuna hiyo trend tu inaendelea. So that shows you there is a problem. Now, they want you to check, do forensic investigation to check how much has been lost in terms of the assets, the stock, and for how long it has been going on, and who are the perpetrators. And that is what we need in forensic audit. You want to know how much stock has been lost, what is the value, how long has it been going on, how did they do it, the fraud, and who are involved, and what are the weaknesses. That is the objective of forensic audit. What are the weaknesses? So let's look at the procedures that you might follow. They are saying, explain the procedure you will perform to determine whether a fraud has taken place and to quantify the loss suffered. Sindio, you need to know whether a fraud has taken place and how much has been lost. Now, in this one, we are looking at the fraud at the stock level, where stock are involved. Number one, you need to obtain the understanding of the business in a particular, in particular, the roles and responsibility of those involved in processing inventory transaction and those in the warehouse. So during your meeting with the client, the first meeting, you should have asked the client, who are in charge, who are responsible, who do you suspect, what are their roles, which rights do they have? So already you know. So once you know the people who are actually in the warehouse, you know they are the ones who are responsible to handle, you look at now their roles and responsibility. Number two, you discuss with the management the methods they adopt to conduct quarterly count, because maybe there is a problem. Wamekwambia that there are variances between the system record and the quarterly count. So you need to check, maybe the fraud has not even happened. You need to ask them, so how did you confirm the quarterly count and the system? How did you check? Which method were you using? Otherwise, inaweza kuwa wanadanganya, their record has a problem. You can also check any weakness in the controls that should be identified and considered as a possible explanation of the discrepancies. That is like double counting of this particular line of inventory. Probably they're double counting, or maybe they are missing items. They are not counting some. Obtain confirmation of whether inventory is held at more than one location. Maybe the location where they're putting the inventory in their shida, zingine ziko hapa, zingine ziko pale, but they keep on complaining because they forgot to count the ones that are actually stored in a different location. You can also review procedures that they use to identify obsolete and damaged items. That is very important. Remember, these are stocks. The stocks can also be obsolete. So if the stock has gone bad, obviously tutatupa nje, ndio. And when they are thrown out, what is the procedure? Are they reducing the same from the balances? Otherwise, you'll see discrepancies because the balances still show they are 50, kumbe mbili ziliharibika, but you forgot. So you need to know the procedure of identifying and removing them from the system. Obtain an understanding of the system processing and recording of dispatches. How do they record when they dispatch stocks that they have? Anytime wakitoa tu wameuza, how do they record? And when they receive, how do they record? So you need to understand, because probably the problem is not on the counting side. The problem is on the recording side. So again, those are areas that you need to be able to check before. So you need to understand the controls that they have when recording, whether inventory are being reviewed or reconciled, such kind of things. Imagine this thing is just that simple. Then review the system of subsequent processing of goods received, in particularly the controls and procedures regarding the accuracy and output. If goods goods are processed more than once, this will give rise to discrepancies between the book records and actual inventory. When you make an order for good and that order has been processed more than once, then obviously there will be discrepancies. So there should be controls to ensure that the way you process the goods are normally recorded in a good way. Like now, subsequent processing. When order has been made, you receive the goods. How do you process? You can double count. Okay, double count itakuwa mingi more than what is physically available. So again, look at the way you are recording. So those are, and then the physical control at the warehouse, like physical control we talked about, security, CCTV that are there, logins, who are allowed. Most controls they have given are like only staffs only, not authorized. Do they exist? Let's look at now fraud prevention and deterrence. So I hope these ones you understand, the physical controls. Now is a bit to explain. If you are asked about a audit procedure, just give anything that you feel will help to get information. Kama umeelezwa tano, don't even bother whether they are going to help you reach the conclusion. No, just throw anything that you want. So long as it can actually help you know what you're looking for. Sio lazima umalize zote hadi reporting. No, audit procedure is about collecting evidence. Then you can know whether fraud was there or they were lazy. Can you state the procedures like plan, audit, evidence? No. Audit procedure is not like now to an audit procedure, that is now the actual execution. When you are now performing, the main focus there is to collect evidence. That is what we call audit procedure. And they are the ones that we just looked at. For example, if somebody tells you, how can you test potential or perform audit procedures for potential fraud in payroll? They are not telling you to start explaining that you're going to accept your plan. No. Enda directly. Anguka hapo, chapa kazi. Just say that you'll request for the payroll list. You'll check the total number of staffs that the HR has and the ones that are on the payroll. You can even do head count. For example, you might be having ghost employee. Ile siku unakuja kuangalia, unaambia kila mtu be available, the auditor is coming. Anaona kila mtu amekuwa kwa desk yake na kwa laptop na anachapa kazi. That one will show you that we only have 8 people. Why the payroll is showing 10? That is audit procedure for payroll. You'll be able to recalculate, perform substantive tests, and check whether the problem will be recalculation. You can even verify the bank accounts where the monies are going to. You can do that. You can ask for a HR file to check whether everyone who is in the payroll has a file and their role, job responsibilities. All right, those are payroll tests. There are a lot of things that you can be able to do, and this one we just done for stock. So you just go there directly, then start. That is audit procedure. You are not asked for steps or stages. They will not mix those things. Stages or steps, hizo ndio wanakuuliza forensic audit stages. That is general. Utafanya hii na ufanye hii, like now accepting, then they will not be specific and ask you at stages for performing audit for forensic investigation, maybe in payroll. No. They will ask you anything they want. This ukisikia tu audit procedure, ingia kwa zile vitu itakusaidia kupata evidence directly. Sawa. Like now we have talked about all these. Those are audit procedures. Those are not stages. Because you are not even expected to give at step by step, anzia hii alafu ende hapa. No, wewe unaingia tu hapo na unachapa tu kazi. Everything that can help you gather evidence, you collect as you record. So let's look at fraud prevention and deterrence. To deter, I know you know the meaning. Just to prevent. Deter is just to make sure that it doesn't come or it doesn't happen. So they are quite the same, prevention and deterrence. So forensic accountants can engage to investigate fraud. This could include quantifying loss from the theft or cash, identifying payments or receipts of bribes, identifying intentional misstatement of financial information. This one is what we call fraudulent reporting. misstatement of financial information intentionally, like overstating revenue. People do that. They can overstate revenue when they know. They can overstate earnings, underestimate cost. Unajua underestimate cost, it means that, and expenses, it means that revenue itakuwa juu. And in exam, they can ask you, why would somebody do what is called fraudulent reporting? Why would somebody misstate information in the financials? Can somebody tell me, as a manager, why would you want to overstate your revenue? In exam, watakuuliza hivyo, why would you, what are the causes of that? Why would you overstate your revenue? Why can somebody overstate? Why would somebody overstate revenue? Hey, please, I want you guys to be speaking. You know, hii paper utapita kama unaongea. Just think and talk. I don't want to mention names, please. Nataka tuongee. Let's discuss. Regina, Juliet, Judy, please don't let me down. Christabel is alone here. She's just alone here. It's obvious that whenever ukisikia tu kuna ka bonus, you want to do everything because that bonus depends on revenue. So that can actually make you exaggerate revenue. In exam, these are things that they ask. I've seen. Wanauliza tu, what are some of the causes of fraudulent reporting? So tukinyamaza hivi, you will not even remember, but ukianza kufikiria next time, unajua tu, nilijaribu hivi, Deno akaniambia hivi, and this is the answer. Sindio? So let's try guys. Let me see, help your neighbor. Maybe your neighbor doesn't know. Just try your neighbors. You'll be able to help your neighbor. Help him. Thank you. Somebody has given me another point here. Okay, Juliet, yes. When the prices are anticipated to increase in future. So you want to increase your neighbor. I like this trial, Juliet. This is a good trial. So what you need to understand first, that these people are the management. Management are going to give financial report. They are going to give financial report to the shareholders. Ama kwa AGM, unaenda kupeleka report kwa AGM. So that is why you want to show that you are making profit. Kampuni inafanya vizuri. When in real fact, it is not doing well. So do you want to exaggerate? Because you expect the prices to be high next year. So you are trying to show that you are making profit. Exactly. Meeting expectation, this is a nice one. Making expectation of the management, senior management, or not even senior management, even the directors, or pressure from directors. They are putting pressure on you that, Juliet, if you don't do well this time, unaenda nyumbani. What do? You fake figures. Alafu wakuja waone audited account ati, we are making profit, we declare dividends. Kumbe, huku chini, ndani, there's nothing. Things are bad. So, meeting expectation, that is one. Pressure from shareholders, you can also say that. Another one, competition. Think about competition. Unaona KCB is doing well, and so your bank, which is called the maybe JBT or JBT, whatever the name is, you are saying that I want to compete with the KCB. If they are making profit this much, hata sisi tuko hapo. Then, because of competition, you want to show people that you are not behind. You can also exaggerate. You know, this happens everywhere. Even politicians, they exaggerate. They report. They are showing that, you know, at this time, Ruto is closer to Baba, ama Baba is closer to Ruto, so that at least, because of that competition and pressure, they want to show that they are not behind. So they fake figures, loopholes for evading tax. Yes, that is another one. You can actually manipulate figures by reducing the revenue because you want to evade tax. That's a good point. Hautaki ionekane unatengeneza pesa because more money, more tax. So you reduce the profit. That is also another way of fraudulent reporting. Yes, now let's now, tumeanza sasa. I like that. Give one more. I've given you a lot. I've given you the first one. Christabel has given us, the first one was for the bonuses. Number 2, expectation from senior management. I give you number 3, pressure from shareholders or board of directors. Number 4, I've given you again, competition. Number 5, loopholes. Number 6, maybe regulators, pressure from regulators. Regulators has told you, liquidity ratio inafaa ifike hapa. If you don't meet this target, liquidity ratio, we are going to give you a warning. Sasa utafanya aje? Unaenda pale, Central Bank is on you, hivi, KRA or whatever regulator, they are telling you this is the target. So what do? Vicheze kama wewe, show them that you are meeting the target. Regulators. Aya, na hiyo ni exam, inaweza kuja hivyo. We have seen them here. They do come like that. Thank you very much. I hope you've written that. So, some of the areas, I don't know whether they have given us that. Application. Just write that application of forensic investigation. I don't think that they have written it well. Kuna notes zilikuwa mzuri sana, but hapa just write that application of forensic auditing. Where do we apply this knowledge of forensic auditing or forensic investigation? Andika hivyo. Application of forensic auditing. Application of forensic auditing. That is very important. They normally bring that in exam. Application of forensic auditing. Number 1, the forensic auditor can be called. That knowledge of forensic auditing can actually be used in trying to investigate negligence. In investigating negligence. So how does this happen? Assuming that you are an auditor, you are somebody, maybe you are a driver who was careless. You are driving carelessly, or you are a doctor who was careless, and because of carelessness, there are mistakes that have happened. So somebody has died or ameumia, and you are sued in court for being negligent. Of course, we'll call forensic auditor to be able to do what? To investigate for us how much is the loss. You know, the loss that have been suffered. He needs to come and perform that investigation. So that is application of that knowledge. As an auditor, you can be actually called to test there. That is an application of forensic auditor. So when an auditor or accountant is being sued for negligence, either or both parties, the case may employ forensic accountants. Forensic accountants or auditors can be employed to investigate the work done to provide evidence as to whether it did in fact meet the standard required. They may also involve establishing the account of loss suffered by the plaintiff. Plaintiff is an account, we have complainant, then plaintiff. Plaintiff is the complainant. Then we have the defendant. The person who has been accused is called defendant. So we are saying that they may also be involved in establishing the amount of loss suffered by the complainant, the person who has complained in court. Forensic accountants can be used to come and establish how much has been lost and whether this person was careless. And the person we are talking about here, for example, is accountant. The auditor was careless or accountant, and they were sued for negligence. Like when I was talking about the third-party responsibilities and liability, third-party liability or liability third-party. Remember our class, liability third-party? Yes. The person who will come and estimate how much you're going to pay under that particular case is forensic auditor. That is number 1, negligence cases. That is where that knowledge can be applied. Now, umeelewa. Another one I forgot is about in fraud investigation. They didn't indicate it there. I don't know whether it is down there, but fraud investigation, like now, where there are fraud that has happened, like maybe cases of fraud in procurement department, kama ile NYS, we are going to call that person fraud investigation. We also apply the knowledge of forensic auditing or we can call forensic accountant to come and assist there. So in exam, if they ask you application or areas of application, you know, they are true already: fraud, investigation, negligence. Number 3, insurance claims. E. This is also another application where the insurance is going to pay somebody. You know, loss has been suffered, and the insurance now has a claimant or plaintiff. Plaintiff has gone to court to sue. When the plaintiff has gone to court to sue, the insurance come in and say, now we need to know how much you want to be compensated. Insurance is ready to pay, but they don't know how much. The person who is coming to estimate the amount of claims to be paid is none other than forensic auditor. Ndiye atakuja angalie, for example, maybe a loss that was suffered, nyumba imechomeka, you've lost property or business, you want to estimate how much you've suffered. Will only involve forensic auditor. So insurance companies often employ forensic accountants to report. Sometimes we call them accountants or auditors. So in exam, just give, don't worry. They are the same people. So they actually employed to be able to estimate or report on the validity of the amount of loss that has been claimed as a means of resolving the dispute between the company, which is the insurance, and the claimant, or maybe the insurance clients and the claimant. So this will involve computing losses following an insured event, such as fire, flood, or robbery. If an insurance company, if a criminal action arises over an allegation that an insured event was deliberately contravened to defraud the insurance company, the forensic accountant may be called on as an expert witness. You know, insurance does not pay if you intentionally make a loss. Yani hiyo makosa yenye imefanyika, that loss, you are also a participant. The insurance does not pay. And that is why forensic accountants will come in and help insurance company to know who are the perpetrators, who are involved. If they realize that you are also involved and you are claiming that you want to be paid, then you cannot be paid, right? Hiyo najua imeingia. We also call them to andika number 4, business valuation. Business valuation, sijaona hiyo hapa, but I'm giving you the points that I know that can also be applied. Business valuation, when you want to buy, maybe there is amount of business loss that you suffered, and so you are claiming for that particular amount. So how can we get the value of loss that you suffered? Maybe fire or maybe flood, and you are claiming that, you know, at a government, unaambia government, you know, we've suffered in Gikomba, we had a business here. Like of late, mimi nikisikia tu Gikomba imechomeka nasikia ati billions of money, hata nashangaa. Yani Gikomba hapa watu wako na billions of money that are lost. So in case such cases happen and the government offers to pay those people for the loss, not insurance, like now that case, you want to estimate the amount of loss that you suffer in, you are going to value the business. Now forensic accountants will come in. Their main aim is to know amount of loss that has been suffered, and probably they want also to know how it happened so that they can give the report for compensation. We also have disputes between partners. Whenever there is dispute between partners, the partners are saying that, you know, you are doing this, mwingine ni hivi, you are the one who caused the loss, or we need to divide ourselves this money, nafaa tugawane vizuri. So the person who can come in and estimate for us the amount that we need to maybe divide among ourselves is forensic accountant, because he's coming to investigate how much was involved, how much. Sawa sawa. So whenever there is a dispute between partners, like now here, forensic accountants can also be involved in investigation of many other types of dispute. Like now, dispute between partners is also there. Dispute in contracts. The main thing here is looking at how much is in question. That is an accountant. How much? How much? So that is what is coming. We also have matrimonial disputes. I know you know these cases, like the families are fighting over certain things. Matrimonial dispute. Those are still application of forensic accountants or auditing, where people are now fighting at, you know, this person died, hakuacha will, watu wanapigana. The person who is coming to value and evaluate the value of the family business and investigate how much was it, the same people. We also have another one in banking, for example. Banking, they can also come in. Maybe the bank needs to claim something, or the bank has been sued for some reasons to pay. Like now, one of the judges that we know in Kenya, sued a bank. They sued a bank for a loss. Alienda kwa ATM, and ATM imekata kufanya kazi. Haikuwa ATM, alienda kwa supermarket. Just imagine, amefanya shopping. After doing a lot of shopping, pale kwa counter, kadi imekata kufanya kazi. So he actually made some losses, and he was embarrassed. So he's saying that according to his status, he was embarrassed, and because of that, he needs to be compensated. And so the court had to determine that and know that what was the amount of loss according to your status that you want the bank to pay you for disappointing you at the counter when you know that you had money in your account, ATM ilikata kufanya, or debit card. So such kind of cases, the bank can actually go to court and now tell forensic accountants, okay, can you estimate the value of this person and maybe see if it makes sense to compensate him this? How much can we compensate? So the bank can tell forensic accountants to assist them estimate, huyu mtu anasema 10 million. Is it really worth 10 million? Forensic accountants, they come and estimate you and say that according to how we know you, you are not worth 10 million. We can only pay you 2 million for that case. You know, what is your opinion? It happened. One of the judges in Kenya, you can Google. I don't know, was it, but I know it comes from my area, in my county, from my county. One of the most proud judges. Na alienda kotini na alilipwa. Terrorism financing, they are also involved here in terms of investigation. Terrorism financing. So the forensic accountants, they can also be used to trail, because terrorism financing, this is where you are given money to be able to facilitate you to cause some terrorism activities. That is called terrorism financing. So for us to know and trail who are involved, how much was given, how did the money move, to trace that money, forensic accountants. So forensic accounting of transaction trails across continents has been vital in identifying the threats and covering accomplices, piecing together company structure, and untimely providing evidence for prosecution. Most recently, forensic accountant executives have tracked an alleged terrorists, bomb maker, using multiple identities, multiple bank accounts, and third parties, and third bank countries to purchase bomb-making equipment, and tracked him, and to uncover and overseas bombs. So these are things that they also get involved in. They want to trace how the money was moved from one state to another. So maybe here I can only do a definition because I've never seen it in an exam, but you need to understand just in case they ask you, what is fraud deterrence? So this basically is the proactive way of identifying and removal of the causal and enabling factors of fraud. Deter is to deactivate or remove. So that is what it basically means, is the proactive identification and removal of the causal and enabling factors of fraud. So those are maybe definition. I've never seen that kind of question, but let's look at symptoms of fraud. What can show you that fraud is happening somewhere? This one they can set. What are some of the symbols or symptoms of fraud? When you see that documents are missing, vouchers, invoices, or checks are missing, that is a key thing. That is a sign. They are missing these things intentionally. Fraud must be happening here. How comes they don't have anything? Ikiuliza hii hawana. Number two, where the accounts do not agree with the subsidiary books or the customer books. When you realize that either the accounts are kept at the head office and the branches are not in line. Head office inasema ati branch iko na hii, branch inasema hii. Or maybe the accounts are kept by the supplier and their customer are different, or your client and their customer, their accounts are different, that can also show you that. When you realize that when the differences in trial balance is difficult to locate, unaona kuna variances in trial balance, but you cannot even know exactly where it is. That one can show you that fraud might be here. Where there is differences between the balance and the confirmation of the balance by the parties. When you send circularization, the bank is saying its own balances, and the client is also saying its own balances. So the third party are saying different balances of confirmation. That can also be another sign. Another one is that when the explanation given by the client is not satisfactory. The client does not give you correct information, or maybe they are just going around the bush. The client does not give you a correct and direct information that you want. Where the difference between the stock records and the stock physical count also differs, like the one that we have seen. When you count physically, there are variances. Just pick what you can remember. In exam, these are how they can set them. Where there is an overwriting of some figures. Kama ni checkbook, unaona wame countersign, wame overwrite. Kama ni record, they have written na mkono ama whatever they're using, they are overwriting. They are trying to erase. Where there are contradiction in explanation given by different parties, you ask finance manager is explaining a different thing from the internal auditor. For the same case, mwingine anasema hii, mwingine anasema hii. Just know that fraud is not, something is not right there. Something is not right. Up to there, is there any question? Is there any question up to there? Any question? Any question? No, Julia doesn't have any question. So let's look at the procedures. Ini nini sasa imekuja hapa? Something is blocking my screen. Let's look at the procedures to be followed to detect fraud when you want to detect fraud. So these are some of the things that you can do. And I think we have looked at some of them. Like now, you can be able to check the closing balances of last year and the opening balances. That is, check the opening balance from the balance sheet of the last year. Meaning that when you closed on 31st of December, the closing balance should be the same as the opening balance of past. You can't tell us transaction happened during overnight. So for us to know that error happened, we need to be able to check the closing balances. That will tell us kuna shida. They should be the same. The closing balance at the end of the year and the opening. Whether check the posting into respective ledger accounts, check the total of the subsidiaries books, verify the casting and the carry forward. Any balances that are carried forward. List of debtors and creditors should tally with what you are seeing in the ledger. I hope these ones we've done. We've explained some of this. Make sure that all the accounts from the ledger are taken into account to show completeness in terms of maybe receivable. Make sure that all the receivables are actually included. That is a test of completeness. Here, you need to get the total debtors and total creditors should tally with what you are given. Verify the total that you have in the total balance. Compare the various items from the total balance with that of the previous year. If everything that is in the total balance was there last year, compare. If some are missing, you should ask why were they there last year, this year has equal. What happened? So, the total balance for last year, you can compare with this year. There are some that were there last year, but this year, they are not there now. You'll be able to test that. So there are some of the things that we looked at. Untimely, carefully, ultimately carefully scrutinize. Scrutiny is the only remedy for detection. See that no entry of the original book has remained unposted. Every entry has been posted. So these are, I think these are also we've done. Is tumeangalia The audit procedures, like examine all the aspects of finance, check the vouchers, receipts, check thoroughly salary and wages register, verify the methods of valuation stock, check stock register, goods inwards, goods outwards, calculate various ratios, go through the detailed unusual items, probe into the details of the problem when there is not, probe into details of the problems when there is a suspicion. Those are audit procedures that you can perform to test whether the fraud is there. These are things that you can remember still. So I think that is the end. An example was this that we've actually looked at. This one we looked at. Explain the audit procedure, determine the term, define the term forensic auditing, forensic investigation, and forensic accounting. State 3, application of the use of forensic auditing. They have given you 3 uses here. Application, where we apply forensic accounting. That one I've given you. State 5 items that should ideally be included in the expert reports. Forensic expert, what are some of the items that you can include in the expert reports? See, easy to remember. You need to say in the expert report, you need to say how much was lost, who are involved, what was the way, the procedures. Hizo tumesema. These are expected in the report. Na hizo tumesema uko nazo kwa books. The application uko nazo. Hii tumefanya hii ingine, the audit procedure ya hiyo story, case study. That one we have looked at. And then maybe you now go and look at this difference between forensic auditing, forensic investigation, and forensic accounting. I'll give you that assignment. You go and try, check. You can Google, you can read the notes. I'll share with you these notes. That is the end. Any question? We are done with topic number 10. Any question? I'll save it now and share immediately. Let me save it now and just share. Save it now and share. If I forget. Any question, please? Tumeelewa kitu? Kama kuna question, just comment. Umeelewa kitu? Umeelewa kitu ama umetoka bure? Tunaelewa vitu? Well understood, I'm okay with the topic. Tumeshika. I want to see those who are not commenting when you wametoka bure. Wakina nani wametoka bure? I want to see those who have not commented. Tell me where you feel I need to maybe brush through. Sitaki utoke bure. Thank you very much. Good evening. Good night.